Blossom Chips.
Okay, everybody, welcome to episode 9 of Blossom Chips.
Yeah, or is it 8.1? So I guess we'll call it 9.
Okay, call it
we'll
8.2. Okay. And last time we were talking about how Steph likes dating younger men.
Oh, yeah!
And on the break, I found out your guys' age.
Oh, no!
I won't share.
Okay,
No, it's
good.
okay.
But you guys are
Thank
aging
you.
well.
Yes. Oh, man, that's kind of you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I
By the way,
go ahead.
We're continuing our episode called Fear, the Great Preserver or the Great Destroyer?
Destroyer. Dun,
Yeah.
dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun, dun. Okay, anyway, go on.
Many
Paul.
exclamation points.
I just had deja vu there.
Yeah, you should have. But I just went to lunch today with an old childhood buddy who I hadn't seen in a long time, and he had since shaved his head. He was bald. And anyways, I was like, yeah, sometimes I've thought about doing that. There's some fear there, though. There's some fear there.
Fear of doing it or fear
of doing it.
You still have a lot of hair.
I still have a lot of hair. He was thinking it was about the time to maybe think about shaving it, but I feel like my hair doesn't look as good. Some people's heads look good shaved. Some people's don't.
Yeah.
Paul, you're still looking great, man.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's great. I mean, people think I'm in my 20s, and I'm really 31.
There we go. Yeah.
Lies.
Someday I'll be 31.
That was a lie.
Then I'll know what it feels like.
That's right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about fear. And, the more I think about this, not everything...
The more fear you feel? Oh, okay.
So human beings, we have all sorts of internal obstacles to the things we're trying to accomplish. That's just true. And a lot of that can be traced to some sort of fear. But, I don't think everything that's an obstacle can be categorized as a fear. Maybe I'm just splitting hairs here, which Paul, as an attorney, can appreciate.
Yeah, that's true. What kinds of things, internal obstacles, would you say?
Well, again, like the whole rational mitigation of risk. Hey, maybe that's not so much about fear as it is about taking the facts as you see them and the, trying to estimate the magnitude of risks, such as the magnitude of risk of us being broken into, which I think is very low. Very low.
You're saying if you're a 3 and you're trying to date a 10, that's a big risk. Not that you are a 3.
No, you threw a
300.
curveball. You brought it back to what we're actually talking about, which is how fear factors into our
I
relationships.
wasn't even meaning to bring it back.
No, it's good. See,
good
that's
as
why
you
we're
did.
glad you're here.
Wait, but before we bring it back, let me point out.
Stop getting us on track.
The risk, it's a low probability of getting broken into, but the consequences of if a break-in happens are high. So that's
I'm saying even those are low if someone is home.
yeah, that's true. But the reason for locking the door is that if everybody else leaves out the other door, then the door doesn't stay locked when nobody's home. That was the point.
Do you guys just want to agree to disagree on this?
Yeah, we can. But this is actually, in my mind, this is a good example of what I see as the kind of
I don't know
fear that holds us back in a very trivial way.
Sure.
Extremely trivial. Anyway, I can let it go. But
alright.
I guess my point was
kinda-
maybe Paul's point of view is not necessarily about fear. It's really about trying to mitigate risk.
Yeah,
So maybe
so-
not everything can be reduced to fear. So
okay.
invalidating our topic. I'm going to stop doing that.
So, okay. But yeah, so back to Steph's comment about we basically saying that you're a 3.
No. I
Those
was
are your
thinking,
exact
of
words,
a
Steph.
lower number,
I
but
know,
I
I know.
wasn't saying for you.
I know.
Wait, have you heard about
Definitely
this?
a 10, Bryce.
No,
man.
now she's just lying. Yeah.
Have you heard of this?
You too, Paul.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Have you heard of this experiment where it's like okay, don't worry. And anyways, and they just tape numbers on your forehead, and you don't know what number you are, and you're you need to go try to match up with the highest number you can. And
I like this.
And this is how you get the higher grade on this homework assignment. And so you're all just in a room together, and people naturally start to pool together with the people that are around their number. Because because you start to get a feeling if a person who's a 3 is really excited to talk to you, you're like, well, it must be pretty high. And you start to collect around the people that are higher. And it's an interesting self-segregation kind of thing in terms of your...
Yeah.
But anyways.
I think there's a lot of that goes on in dating and pairing.
Yeah.
Even though, there's no objective no one is actually a 10, right? Everyone's
I know.
got,
I don't like the
I know.
scale thing, but-
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got
that's true.
strengths and weaknesses, you know. And anyway,
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, we're like 9.5.
pretty much. And Steph's like 9.89.
Yeah, that's true. This is sounding like.
I mean, you know, maybe
this is like Olympic scores.
her you know, biggest downside, maybe she sings in the shower or volunteers too much.
Well, her biggest downside.
Or sometimes she hits Meredith with her car.
Right.
Just from The Office.
Is that what?
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anywho.
No.
Okay. So my next question then is how back to fear being, you know, in some ways useful, in some ways not useful. How has fear aided you or someone you know in avoiding harmful mistakes, but especially in relationships? And I think for me, you know, I'm kind of have a financial background, and like there's these, like in the stock market, there's two competing emotions of fear and greed.
Sure.
Greed like motivate us to like, you know, invest in a company that we think is going up or long term or even in the short term. Fear is where we, you know, recognize how much we stand to lose if we invest in this, and maybe we say, hey, actually this company's not looking so good, I'm not going to invest. That's a way in which like fear can be, I think, positive.
Sure.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I think fear, like, I think I've experienced some of that even in relationships too, or potential relationships where I think I've seen things that I think are things legitimately to be feared in a potential future relationship with a person, and then said, okay, that's probably not a good way. It's probably not a good match, you know?
Yeah.
We're too different on these things or whatever, and that's going to cause problems down the line, even though there's interest.
Yeah.
Maybe mutual interest.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably helped me avoid some probably not good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. So I was thinking this is sort of a different example, but in one of my wards years ago, I was called as the ward matchmaker.
In her local church congregation.
Yeah, the
That's okay.
Lord,
church.
matchmaker.
So
like
I had to carry around a box at church, and people submitted names of who they wanted to get to know or who they thought would be a good match. And so that was like so in the church,
they were requesting to be matched with people they were interested in.
And then I put together a dinner. So anyways, so being the ward matchmaker.
Hold on, did it have to be a mutual match?
No.
Okay.
So, and then it was an interesting experiment because I would do dinner and everyone thought the person next to them was the one that submitted their name. So they would be like, oh, really?
Hey, what's up, baby?
And it often wasn't. But anyways, that caused me to get over my fear. Before that, I had never really, like, maybe asked a friend to something if I had tickets or whatever. But I was like, if I'm going to be the ward matchmaker, I'm going to be an example. And so we started doing group dates all the time. And I started asking guys to these things, and we would plan. And it would be just like cheesy things like, come over, we're doing like a game thing or whatever. But I feel like because of that, it caused me to not have as much fear when it came to like dating and putting myself out there, because like, even though I had a lot of people that they said no, whether because they had something or not, it made me be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And so I have friends now that are like, wow, like, that's great that you can put yourself out there, and it doesn't feel like I'm putting myself out there as much because it's just sort of become
It's not a big deal.
how I am.
So you're saying you've surmounted one of your fears?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of other fears, and I mean, it's still scary to like put yourself out there to someone and show interest.
Sure.
But I think that helped me a ton in like it changed the whole direction of my dating.
That's awesome.
That is really awesome.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you were doing that, were there more girls putting in names or guys, or was it pretty even? Like,
that's the surprising thing. So people took my calling literally. Like I had like guys that would text me and be like, hey, can you set me up with this girl? And I'm like, you're a cute guy. Just ask her out. She would probably say yes. But like people, like it was like even numbers. And the coolest thing is that it got everyone to come, you know, like the people that are super beautiful people to like the interesting ducks. Everyone came because
I love it. Interesting ducks.
But they were curious.
Dirty pervs and interesting ducks. That's what
that's awesome.
two broad camps of single men out there. Is that right? Sorry, I'm sidetracking.
I've not heard that.
Dirty pervs and interesting ducks. Don't be a dirty perv, man.
Okay, well, interesting duck doesn't necessarily sound incredibly flattering either. What the heck is that?
Well, Steph said it like it's a good thing. Well, yeah, so I'll take that.
Well, wait, no, she said like beautiful people and interesting ducks.
Yeah, interesting ducks.
Yeah.
But But yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were dirty pervs out there too. So.
Dang it. Listen, you dirty pervs. Stop it.
Yeah. So I was at this comedy club a few months back, and one of the guys was joking, why is it in our society that, the creepiest sex, the men, that it's our responsibility to like pursue women,
Well, there's a fine line between like activity that's creepy or welcome, depending on whether you're interested.
If you
in
like
the person,
someone,
then the same behavior is totally normal.
I smell
Otherwise, it's creepy.
a future topic, right? Men, how to be assertive without being creepy.
Yeah.
We could talk a long time about that.
Oh man,
we need to bring in experts because I failed too much at that to be credible. Maybe.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway,
I think.
Okay, so Steph brought up a positive example of positive in the sense of she had a fear and she overcame it.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go back to that, but
Okay.
okay, we're great.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more then about how fear has actually been positive. And Paul, you mentioned how it's probably guarded you from pursuing women that maybe weren't a good match.
Yeah.
You want to talk some more about that?
Well, I've got
And I've been the same way. I think I've been overly good at letting my fears. It's probably been too strict of a filter.
Sure.
But I do think it's also helped me to avoid some heartbreak with certain people.
Yeah, well, like there was one girl I dated, and we had different ideas about family life. Like I had a career. She had a career she was pursuing, but there was not. She seemed totally fine with like just kind of putting kids in daycare while we're out kind of pursuing our careers, and that kind of thing I was uncomfortable with because I'm a little bit more traditional, and like I would have wanted generally us to be raising our own kids, and that was kind of difficult for me. She also didn't really want to have many kids, and that was kind of difficult for me. So that was one that I was actually in the relationship, but that was one of the main reasons that I got out of it, is that I felt like I liked her a lot, and we matched up on a lot of levels, but I felt like that's something that's going to cause problems down the line. Yeah. And so...
And when you guys when you talked about it, like, were you both pretty firm in your views, in your preferences?
For the most part, yeah. It was hard to find a common ground. She had actually had a lot of fears coming out of she was divorced actually, and she actually had a lot of fears from a past relationship, from her marriage. Yeah. In that she was married to a guy who really struggled to hold down a job. Yeah. And so she came out of that being like, I'm never going to depend on a man again. Yeah. Yeah. So she was kind of responding to her fears. Yeah. Yeah.
Which again,
so,
it's understandable that would be one of her big takeaways from that kind of experience.
It is. Yeah. And I don't know. Actually, in the end, no, it sounded like she was kind of like, seemed like she was willing to kind of work through some of that stuff, but it still felt like it was kind of dangerous ground, We were so far apart how we started off. Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, man. Dude, getting all personal.
I think we should up our percentage of personal talk to maybe 20%. I've actually previously I said, okay, we're going to keep it no more than 10%. And I've gone over that way far a lot of times.
I don't think I ever obeyed that
People
rule.
People like hearing personal.
I think so too. I think so too. We just don't want to be a Paul and Bryce Blabathon any more than it already is.
Paul and Bryce show.
That's right.
Whatever. If you guys share more personal experiences and less of that Minecraft stuff, the ladies will listen.
Oh, the truth. The truth comes out.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, you really did not like that Minecraft.
No, I liked Minecraft. That was in the last episode. I was just saying, you were like, what did ladies like? Right. Because I don't know what it is.
Minecraft is not as relatable
but
as
like
other
when
things.
someone shares something personal, like anyone can
exactly
connect, especially the females. Just saying.
That's true. No, that's fair.
You are right. You are right.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was my example.
No, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I could go to the doctor and say, well, my friends say I have this many fears, and I think I have this many fears. So you could say, your friends are lying. So that's my last doctor joke.
You need better friends.
Yeah.
Or a better doctor.
Yeah.
I need a doctor who will lie to me.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, do you have something else? Otherwise, let's
No,
move on.
no,
Okay,
that's
so next question, and Steph has already kind of hit on this, but how has fear hindered you or people you know? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hang on.
What?
Oh, yeah. How has fear hindered you or people you know in achieving desired outcomes, especially when it comes to relationships?
Yeah.
And actually, you guys have both kind of hit on this.
Sure. Can I talk about how daters are like Russians?
Absolutely.
'Cause, we've talked a little bit about this off the mic, but yeah, we all are like incrementally overcoming stages of fear in trying to get into relationships too. In that we're like trying to not show too much interest.
Sure.
While still showing a little.
Sure.
And the reason I feel like
one of our therapist friends has wisely pointed out that, the person who cares the least about the relationship holds the most power. So it's kind of like...
Yeah. Is this the same lady that said that...
The friend...
Oh, it's not the same one that said that men need to be 85% sure that a girl's
Different.
going to say yes
Yeah,
before
that
they'll
was
ask a woman out.
that was Stephanie Gardner.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would mention this friend's name, except I don't know if she wants...
Okay.
Anyway.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I feel like I say daters are like Russians because it's like you always have this certain amount of plausible deniability. Like they are with their with the
you don't want to reveal you don't reveal your hand.
Yeah, you don't want to reveal your hand, and you want to be able to say like, oh no, I wasn't.
I wasn't interested in what were you thinking?
No.
See,
get out of here.
That's my biggest problem is that I reveal my hand. But
Okay.
I don't know if it's a
Reveal
problem.
too soon.
I actually think playing too safe is a liability. Actually,
Yeah, most of my best relationships have not involved much in the way of poker faces, but
yeah. That being said, it is absolutely a risk. You're right.
There's a risk of being hurt emotionally, and there's a fear of emotional hurt.
Absolutely.
Because it hurts.
Rejection hurts.
Yeah, it does.
But fear of rejection and overactive fear of rejection can hurt us even more in the long run.
Yeah.
The more you know. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I have some examples of fear holding me back. And it's actually basically in line with what you guys said. Like in my own life, I can totally see, and I'm kind of having a bit of a renaissance in my life in the past few years.
Are you a Renaissance man?
Kind of, yeah.
How so?
I can see like fear has actually held me back a lot in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to be more bold, be more assertive about my life. I feel like I'm running out of time. And I feel like I have the capacity to do more than I've done. When it comes to dating, like I know, like I have played it safe on, not to say I've never pursued women I was interested in, because I tend to be more like Steph as well, where it's like, hey, if I'm interested, I'm going to like lay it all out there.
Yeah.
So maybe in ways which are too forward. But I've also, I'll admit, I've been bad at dating. Like, I've been too quick to like throw in the towel. And I think some of that stems from fear. And I mean, anyway.
Yeah.
No, I feel like we're on the same page because I self-sabotage and I like am always giving it out. And I had this guy that was like, why are you always trying to end things with me? And I was like, I didn't know that I was doing that, but it just is like,
Well, how were you doing it? Like,
so sometimes I'll delete guys' numbers so then I like can play it cool and not text him. And this guy, I had forgotten that I deleted his number, so I was like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "What the heck? You deleted my number?" And I was like, "No." And then I sent him a message. I was like, "I cannot tell a lie. I'm trying to play it cool." But like,
because what? It was too tempting to like.
Really
because
him?
I really, because
you really liked him.
I did like him, and when I do, I just want to talk to someone every day. I just like jumping from A to Z, and so then I just have to like, I have to take precautions, and so, but really, I just do things all the time that sort of like I would tell them that they sort of have it out, and they're like, "Why are you giving me an out?"
Yeah.
So I get you.
Where's that guy now?
That guy?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We aren't dating anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear it. Anyway.
No, it's a good thing.
Okay, it's a good. All right. So I'd also add, outside of relationship stuff, like fear has kept me from doing a lot of cool things too. Like I've been learning to swim the past few years. I've been a terrible swimmer up until now. I've been learning to dance recently.
Hey.
So, I mean,
Awesome.
I guess I really think fear holds us back from living a fuller, richer, happier life in a lot of ways, whether that's in relationships or not.
Yeah, I agree. My biggest fear for many years was doing a podcast. And here I am.
Is that true?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, honestly, it's something I wanted to do a podcast as well, but I was very afraid. It wasn't until I learned that Paul wanted to do it too
What are you afraid about?
and that he was so gung ho about it that like I was emboldened. It's really. You're putting yourself out there
Yeah.
to the
that's true.
wild, wide world of the internet, and all the mean people out there.
I guess
No,
I
it
don't,
is a vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
I guess I don't really feel afraid until we get big enough to where people will start criticizing us openly.
Yeah.
Now it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a part of me that kind
go
of
ahead.
feels like some. So what about Bob, where he's like baby steps to the elevator,
Oh, yeah.
baby steps to the whatnot or whatever. I do kind of feel like there's some progress that sometimes can be made against fears, making very small incremental steps. Anyways, that's just a note that I'd written down.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. There's. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's basically.
There's something else I wanted to say.
Okay.
It's a quote by Brian McGee. He's a British philosopher. This quote is often misattributed to Sigmund Freud, but it's not. But I like it. He says, "We often hear it asserted that most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Whether or not this applies to most people, there is, I am sure, whether this applies to most people, there is, I am sure, a vital element of truth in it."
Okay.
I think that's very true. People are afraid of responsibility. And I think people are also afraid of making mistakes, taking risks that, even if the worst case scenario is not catastrophic, that it can still be unpleasant enough that they will just not do it. I see that a lot in decisions people make about careers. They'll choose something safe, but that makes them unhappy and not do anything about it.
Well, that's tough. That is a tough one too, though, because
Sure. It is tough.
there are a lot of examples of careers that go bad or
It's true.
businesses that fail.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more businesses that fail than
Yeah,
don't.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I guess it's when I see people who, year after year, they express something
Yeah,
that they don't like in
okay.
their lives, and they haven't done
Sure.
anything about it. And I think a lot of that stems from fear of putting themselves out there, and quite possibly, and in all likelihood, probably failing, multiple times along the way to find something that actually works.
Sure, some
That's
fear
been
of
the case with
change,
me in my employment.
some safety and staying in the situation you're in,
Yeah.
some comfort in it.
Yeah.
So when I was in Phoenix and we had urban chickens, and we had a coop for them, but we would just open the coop during the day, and the chickens would never leave the yard. There's like this safety and like they know their surroundings and they're not going to go away. Even though they could. I mean, they could easily fly over our little fence and just take off and walk down the yard, but there's
Yeah.
danger in the unknown.
Yeah.
So
What happened to them at the end? Did they get eaten?
some of them did get eaten by other animals that jumped over the fence.
Oh no!
I'm not sure. There's actually one that we named after British royalty, Queen Anne, and fittingly, she was like killed by a coyote on the 4th of July. So we were like, oh, it's patriotic, but it's also sad. I feel like when I was trying to decide what major to have, I had a lot of fear of like, is this one, am I going to be unhappy in this one? Am I going to be unhappy in that one? I feel like that was a driving force.
But eventually you made a decision.
I did make a decision. It's true. Yeah.
And you made the most of it.
I did. I had a little bit of a detour, but ended up in law.
Yeah.
Sure. By the way, while we're talking about what people are most fearful of, I gotta say a pet peeve here. You know that quote that says we're most fearful that we're all powerful? Like, I feel like that doesn't apply to me. Like, maybe I feel like I'm not. That is not something that is fearful for me. Anyways,
Do you know what he's talking about, Steph?
Yeah, the one
Okay.
that, like,
What do you think?
our greatest fear is not that we're inaccurate.
I
I
sus-
like that quote, though.
I suspect
like
there's
it.
a gender difference
Kinda,
about
I
this
don't.
quote.
Well, what?
Yeah.
Do you think it's logically true, or is it just an emotionally feel good?
No, I think that fear really, like we're talking about, it keeps a lot of people from making decisions. So with my major, I didn't apply for the social work program, even though I took all the class because I was afraid that I wouldn't make it. And then at the end of my college, I was like, man, why didn't I do that? And so, especially like younger, I just think that sometimes you feel like there's all these decisions and you get crippled, and so sometimes you don't make a decision, or
which is its own decision.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or you choose like the easier, safe route. So
analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you wish you were a social worker now?
No, but but I think it would have been. I wish I would have gone for it. You know, like those are the. I think that's the difference between who I was and who I am now.
Yeah.
Now I go for things, even if it scares me. Then I'm like, well, might as well do it more. You know?
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's fear in decisions in general of like, I think too for like personality types, not to bring Myers-Briggs back in too much, but like some personalities, the finality of a decision itself is fearful.
That's true.
Because you're like, what about the other options?
I need to know my other options.
Am I sure I've fully optimized this decision? And there's fear in feeling like, oh, did I go down a path that was not the right path?
Yeah.
See, and I'm so black and white. Like, once I say I'm done with someone, it's like, I'm done. Like, I block their number, like, delete them from social media. Like, yeah, because I've been in that path where you're
really
like,
funny.
you're in the limbo where it's like, then you start talking again, and then it's like the gray area. And I'm like,
Oh,
no, if we're not dating, like, we're done, you know, like, but that's my personality.
Yeah, sure.
But I have a friend that likes to keep all the options. And I'm like, that is just mean. Like, stop taking these options.
I do. Yeah. I think
Bryce and I are kind of like that.
in the
I think.
relationship world, there needs to be a good mix of like decisiveness, but also like
Oh yeah,
being
man.
willing to bend. But that being said, if like there's certain like thresholds that are not being met, like that are like absolutely crucial, then like
Or just people that are
delete that number.
passive, and I'm like, no, I'm done.
yeah.
Yeah, until like kind of the opposite. Like there are multiple people I've dated more than once.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's worked out that well.
Oh, how's that going for you, Paul? Yeah.
How's that working for you?
No, but do you find that
It's
like,
always like an unfair thing.
do you find though that
well,
like it is good a second or third
You
time?
know, it's another information gathering experience, and like I'm not against it. Like actually, one of my brothers, him and his wife, they didn't get married until they dated the third time around, and from my perspective, they have a super healthy marriage. So it was like something just finally clicked the third time around. I'm never against it. I have been in talks with girls about round 3 sometimes, or I have tried round 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think
Sometimes
we've-
there's timing issues.
that's right. We've talked about this in
you're a
the
different place.
great relationship equation, right? That sometimes you could be the right person, but it. Well, wait, what was it?
Correct.
Be the.
You can find the right person, but not be the right
I'm
person.
misquoting my own
Yeah, you
concept.
are. Your equation just
It
changed.
could be a fundamentally good match, but there might be some other things that don't quite align at a certain point in time, which maybe do align later.
Yeah, no, that's true. I sometimes, I don't know. Well, so I don't know. I sometimes feel like it sometimes can be worth revisiting things.
Yeah.
Potentially, you know. But,
Yeah, Steph, unblock those guys. No,
No, like it's a good reminder though
Sure,
for
Yeah.
me because I am so cut and dry that like sometimes you need the middle. So.
Though I will say, like as soon as you get back into that thing, you bring all the fears that were in that same relationship right back. You know, so
and unless
like,
something has changed, you know, like, oh, actually, I am more assertive about moving this relationship forward. Unless,
Yeah, that's
unless
right.
he is, you know, turned over a new leaf, then like, yeah, maybe it's just confirmation of what you already, you know,
or
concluded.
something's changed.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
Okay, so to wrap up,
Yeah.
let's talk about number 4, which is the question: how should we think about and manage fear in our modern world? And I have 3 questions I want to pose. First, in general, do you think people today are too deferential to their fears? And we've talked a lot about probably all of these already. I'm of the opinion, yes, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would tend to agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we take counsel from our fears too often,
I think so too.
and we take our fears too seriously sometimes. But,
At the very least, I think a lot of our fears need to be examined more. They're not always proportional to the actual risks, I think.
yeah, a lot of times too, if you like go through whatever the thing is that's causing you fear, it doesn't turn out as bad as you thought it was going to be. Like, have you heard this acronym, false evidence appearing real? An acronym for fear?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, false evidence
Yeah.
appearing real, meaning that you actually go through the situation, it's not as bad as it was being blown up in your mind to be.
Right.
And you feel empowered. You're like, wow, like, okay, sweet.
That's right.
Yeah.
To think through and to actually say, oh, you know what, this is not as bad as I thought. And I'm actually capable of doing this. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, little caveat, like there's definitely a such thing as anxiety disorders, you know, definitely,
Yeah, sure.
you know, trauma is definitely real. So we're not saying everything can be neatly fixed up just by changing your attitude and your mindset. But
Yeah.
a lot of it can. Okay.
And with a little counseling from Bryce.
Not me, but there's a lot of great therapists out there.
Yeah, there
And
are.
again, as
No,
I keep
that's
saying,
fair.
there is no shame in seeking out the help of someone trained to help with you know, the deep things of the soul.
And there's no shame in dating younger men if you're.
That's right. They're
there's
more
not-
fun.
And there's no shame in being older than you look. If you're
That's right.
Follow Bryce.
That's right. Okay, so next question. How can we best determine when our fear is helpful and when it's harmful? What do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, I like counseling with third parties. I feel like a lot of times talking things through with people.
Yeah.
Even if a lot of times, like sometimes I get really stressed about my work stuff. Bryce knows about this, and I'll talk about it. But even just talking about it will help me to feel better.
Yeah.
So sometimes that'll help some just your anxiety because
Yeah.
you'll air it out and you'll be like, okay, well, it's not as to be feared as I'm fearing it. But
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Steph, you got any
No, I
ideas?
think that's perfect when you talk it
Yeah.
out and talk to someone. Because sometimes if your friends are good friends, they'll be like, yeah, you're being crazy. That's not a good point of why to not
If they're
date someone.
good friends. What if they're bad friends? Then they're just
If they're-
enablers.
if they're bad friends, like
they're more afraid of hurting your feelings than
yeah,
of
like
actually.
Paul's friends that just keep on telling him stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, exactly. Or they'll say like, let's go watch this movie that'll help you feel better. And then it turns out it's a really scary movie. And then you're more fearful than ever before.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's not always kindness to tell people something other than the truth.
That is a
Just
yeah. Sure, this is a universal fear that I feel like we all have. That we don't tell people. We're not honest about some things.
Yeah.
That could help people.
Yeah.
If we were to tell them, even though they might also hurt them temporarily, but because we fear hurting the relationship.
Yeah.
In fact, we might make it better in the long run. But yeah. Okay.
Okay, and last thing, when our fear is harmful, when we've determined it's harmful, what can we do to surmount it? If you're Steph, you just power on through.
You sing a song and you're like, I am woman.
Well, but I also think like, I mean, because I have a fear right now with something and it's running related of just trying to get faster and like this fear of failing like keeps me from it. But but when I take it baby steps and I'm like, okay, this is my goal for this week. This is my goal.
Yeah.
Then I feel like it feels manageable. So if it's with dating and you have this fear of like, well, I don't want to ask this person out. I don't want to reject them.
Yeah.
But maybe just approaching someone new once and introducing yourself and then walking away and you like feel like, okay, I did that, you know?
And then you can
And then the next
crank
time
it up a little
you
bit.
can
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I tend to think I'm a big fan of baby steps approaches.
Yeah.
And that you just focus on like the next little step. That's something. I was listening to this podcast with the guy who started Bob's Red Grain Mill. And
What is that?
It's he sells flour and stuff.
Oh,
but,
okay.
but he grinds it on a stone mill.
Cool.
An old stone mill. That's like it was like I don't remember. It was like 600 years old or something.
Wow.
But anyways, yeah, and he said that even when he was making like, millions of dollars a year, he still would wake up every morning thinking like, are the customers going to show up today? And so I sometimes have some of these same fears related to my business.
Sure.
You never know, but it helps me to just focus on, well, what's the next little step?
Yes. What
The
can
next
be
little
done
step
about
is
it
this.
instead
Yeah.
of continuously ruminating about something.
Yeah, that's right, man. The more time you spend in your head, that's like fear you can really foster fear.
Yeah.
When you actually start putting things in action,
Yeah, exactly.
your mind focuses on that more.
Good thoughts, guys.
Yeah. Good
Well,
thoughts. Well,
we're basically done. Any parting words of wisdom?
stop being so afraid.
There we go. Just stop it. No, but
Stop.
also you can do something about it.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
And
Go
you-
watch What About Bob?
I would also add, like even in those baby steps, you may very well have some like stumbles where it's like, oh, that was actually crappy and really unpleasant. I think if you can even persevere through that,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of perseverance that aids it as well.
I just thought of like, so there's this saying I love, be a buddy, not a bully. But I was thinking about how fear can be that bully sometimes. So like, let fear be your buddy, not a bully type of thing, you know?
Wait, okay. You mean try to have your fear...
Like, have it help you if it is something to like overcome.
Okay, kind of like with that guy's business, like he tried harder. Yeah. I think that's a productive kind of fear.
You could talk it out with your fear. You could be like, "That's an interesting thought, fear." Let me tell you a thing or two.
Yeah. Well, there's this concept of self-talk. Yeah. What we tell ourselves, and a lot of our internal conflicts stem from what kind of conversation we're willing to tolerate with ourselves.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my friends, she read this book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And she told me this book like changed her life.
Cool.
And she talked about affirmations and stuff and how for the affirmation to be effective, it has to actually be true. So you can't necessarily just make up some lie and tell yourself the lie or something that you don't know and say the thing that you don't really know. Yeah. But there are things that you do know, and you can point those out,
Yeah.
And,
I think there's tremendous untapped power in how we relate to ourselves, kind of like you're talking about. Anyway, we'll talk about it another time.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Steph. It's been a real pleasure to have you here.
Hey, thanks for letting me join you guys.
Yeah.
And all you young guys out there, keep an eye out for Steph.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me sound like a cougar on the
Now who's the dirty person? No, just kidding.
Oh, man.
Steph is wonderful and delightful and not creepy.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.